Hello, welcome to this Crypto Professor introduction to Nexo, found at nexo.io. I've been using Nexo for around about 12 months now, and I've been very impressed with their diligence, their security, and the rates at which they pay interest on assets. Nexo is a borrowing and lending platform for cryptocurrency. A typical example would be if you had 5 Bitcoin, say, and you wanted to access the fiat or some of the fiat from that in order to make a purchase, you wouldn't have to sell your Bitcoin in order to have maybe $30,000 or $40,000 taken out of that asset. And what you do is you pay a small fee, an interest percentage rate over the space of a year in order to access that capital. Now, Nexo is unique in that it allows retail investors and companies and institutions to actually provide the capital behind that, and they take a small fee for being the middleman in that arrangement. The current interest rate is as high as 12%, depending on the asset, and I'll show you those a little bit later. It does depend on the asset that is being invested, and the borrowing rate can be as low as 5.9%. Typically, though, it is 11.9%, unless you own the Nexo token itself. Now, the Nexo token is the proprietary token of the Nexo platform, and I'm going to be looking at its price action later on in this video. I'm also going to be explaining why owning Nexo is a good idea in the long term, I believe, and also what it gets you in terms of benefits on the Nexo platform itself. But first of all, I want to actually take a look at the tokenomics behind the Nexo token. You'll notice that today it's actually up around about 25%. It's had a very bullish day, and that's purely because the Nexo token powers that be have decided to buy back $12 million worth of Nexo token. So incredibly bullish news on that front, and that's going to help support the price at its new level. But I'm getting ahead of myself as I'm talking about price action, which I'll talk about towards the end of this video. Currently ranked 75 in the world in terms of market capitalization, with a market cap of $220 million, trading volume of $13.5 million, and a circulating supply of 560 million tokens against a total supply of 1 billion tokens. So a reasonably popular coin, and only about 56% released at the moment. If we look at the all-time high, we'll notice something interesting. The all-time low actually occurs after the all-time high, which is a rarity in terms of cryptocurrency. All-time high achieved in May 2018, and the all-time low achieved in September 2018 of around 4.5 cents. So a very volatile cryptocurrency. This was predominantly affected by the bear market of 2018, and obviously there were a number of investors who were margin called on their assets, and that affected the confidence in Nexo itself. But we've now completely turned around. Nexo are one of the largest institutions providing loans and interest payments for cryptocurrencies in the world. They've processed over $5 billion in the last 2 years. They have over 1 million users. You're able to invest 40 different currencies, including fiat currencies, US dollar, euro, and Great British pound. And it's available in 200 different jurisdictions with different rules, naturally, depending on the jurisdiction's approach to cryptocurrencies. So say, for example, you wanted to borrow some funds and you had 1 Bitcoin. So you'd be able to borrow $10,217 at the current rate, and that's because they over-collateralize their loans. So say, for example, you'd actually need to deposit almost 2 Bitcoin to get a full Bitcoin, and that's to protect the underlying capital. Say, for example, the market dropped and the price fell. This would mean that the depositors who deposit the funds that supply the collateral, or in order to borrow the funds, would be safe. Okay, so in actual fact, the bias is actually towards the depositors who are providing the funding, as opposed to the individuals who are effectively leveraging their assets by half. Now, there are variable levels of over collateralization up to 500%, and that depends on the token that is being offered, okay, and also on various rules decided by the Nexo Oracle, okay. Today, we've actually seen a large price spike just because Nexo has decided to launch a $12 million buyback program for their token in order to help support it and also to vest it for a minimum of 12 months. So that's why the price has dramatically increased today as a result of the news. Okay, it's actually touching previous long-term resistance, and I'll explain that in a few moments. But why would you own the Nexo token? Well, 30% of the profits that are generated by Nexo are paid to token holders in the form of a dividend, and this dividend happens once every 12 months at the moment. The centralized nature of Nexo helps attract large institutions like hedge funds, for example. So it is not a DeFi protocol, it is a centralized asset. I believe their offices are based in Switzerland at the present moment, but they do have offices internationally around the world. But the Nexo token is important because it allows them to have up to $100 million of interest on digital assets. Now, this does only cover digital assets. It doesn't cover fiat. What happens if you deposit fiat, I'll explain in a few moments, is it is converted within 24 hours of you depositing it. Again, completely for free. There are no fees involved in the Nexo platform. You could deposit pounds sterling, US dollars and euros direct from a bank account, and within 24 hours it is converted into the equivalent stablecoin, and then you earn interest in that stablecoin. If you deposit cryptocurrency, the process is rather quicker. You can actually turn around pretty much instantaneously the majority of cryptocurrencies, and that is then covered automatically by this interest. The insurance is actually covered by this, including the interest payments as well, and those interest payments, which you'll see in a moment, do actually compound on a daily basis, which is very nice. But I just wanted to talk about hacks in general, because you might think that 100 million is actually quite low for insurance. After all, if they're managing billions of dollars in payments that we've seen on this, where is the 100 million going to make a dent in that if something does happen? Well, let's have a look at actually the crypto hacks that have happened all the way since 2011. Now, you'll see that in actual fact, the standout year was 2018, where the market was completely rocked in terms of confidence. We did have $875.5 million stolen in assets in 2018. 2019, much less. In fact, dramatically less, down at 282.6 million. The majority of these are actually exchanges. Very few institutions where you actually deposit and save your capital or crypto were affected by any one of these. But notice the majority of these, bar this standout year, are actually over $100 million, and this is the entire market itself. So what they're trying to do there is hedge against a massive collapse by only having $100 million of insurance. The largest hack was actually Mt. Gox, which I believe was over $500 million back in 2014. Since then, we've actually been on a decline. The most recent one was KuCoin, which was $150 million, but most of that was actually able to be recovered because KuCoin could instigate it and actually agree to burn the tokens with the various institutions and partners that they had in order to secure the funds. So the long story short is the orange bars here are actually exchanges, and you'll see that the vast majority of hacks actually do occur on exchanges as opposed to anywhere else. So the long story short is actually $100 million of insurance is actually very appropriate for this type of institution. Now, I have no doubt that this amount will increase. In actual fact, BitGo, who provide the insurance, do actually offer another service for up to $500 million that in time perhaps will be offered by Nexo. But at the moment, they feel that $100 million of insurance on their deposited capital is appropriate. This is not to say that they take security lightly. They actually have a lot of security behind the scenes. They have their own oracle that tracks the cryptocurrency movements and is a security flag in order to determine best protocol. They also have a large amount of cold storage for crypto assets and a strong compliance and anti-money laundering portfolio, and obviously they have that over collateralized crypto credit facility. Okay, so effectively what we're seeing here is, in terms of a centralized entity, it is probably one of the strongest, most secure crypto companies around at the moment. Okay, which is obviously very good news if you're planning on storing a large amount of cryptocurrency with them without your private keys. Okay, and obviously DeFi at the moment is obviously pushing that narrative of owning your own private keys, but then the number of DeFi hacks that have been happening this year would put any investor, I think, off actually putting a large amount of capital into DeFi at the moment, with it being so new and so revolutionary. So I think in order, cost benefit analysis of complexity versus simplicity and security versus risk, Nexo falls very, very much squarely within a happy medium in terms of having security versus simplicity. So let's actually look at my Nexo account now. Okay, you can actually see the number of tokens that are offered: XRP, USD coin, True USD. They have the works. I've deposited a number of GBP and I'm earning 10% actually. Well, 8% plus the bonus 2% because I'm earning my tokens now in Nexo as opposed to sterling. You can see my payment history. I actually started receiving £1.89, and then 2 days ago, with compound interest, I actually started earning £1.90, and then today I've actually switched to earning my interest in Nexo, and every day at midnight I receive the interest in the account. So it's a really nice way of ticking over your interest payments and having that kind of reinforcement that you are getting deposited funds basically on a daily basis. So we've covered the Nexo token, we've covered the interest payments, we've covered the fees, which there are none. If you want to borrow money, you pay between 5.9% if you have staked the Nexo token, you pay the interest in the Nexo token, or 11.9% with Nexo taking the cut in the middle. Okay, so say for example you were lending out GBP and you were getting paid 8% of it because you were getting it paid in GBP itself. Nexo would be getting 3.9% profit on that. Okay, so you'd be getting 8%, they'd be getting 3.9%, so you're getting 2/3, they're getting 1/3. Okay, I think it's a very transparent and very good way of them earning interest on the assets that they have, but also you getting a fair return for your payments. Let's look now at the actual Nexo token price. This is a Nexo and Bitcoin comparison. Okay, and you'll actually see we are currently at a long-term liquidity zone. This goes all the way back to March and April 2019. I suspect that we're actually going to break this, okay, and potentially have a new all-time high, or very near all-time high. I'm slightly neglecting this spike here because this is when the ICO happened, and it's kind of a little bit too volatile for my liking, and also the price collapsed almost immediately to an all-time low in the immediate aftermath. So I would hesitate a little bit to say that this, I would say that this is probably the all-time high, 2,500 Satoshi or so. And obviously with Bitcoin where it is right now, this is quite a significant achievement. I would expect this to break up here over the long term. And in terms of Satoshi, where would I actually look to take my profits? Well, let's just have a look at a fib retracement tool. We have a profit target potentially of around about 3,600 Satoshi up here, with a possible stop at around about 3,000 Satoshi on the way. But as I say, we're facing currently intra-year resistance and a liquidity zone that is very, very popular and resistant previously. We've only broken higher than it once before significantly, and then we automatically almost retrace to a double bottom here and here. Okay, so this is the ultimate low, this is a local low, and this is a retap of that local low. We then had a wedge, you can see that there nicely, I haven't drawn it in, but that is a wedge, and a breakout recently to the upside, caused by the fundamental news and the idea that people are now using more liquidity providers like Nexo in order to get fiat currency from their crypto assets, because obviously crypto assets have taken a very bullish turn recently. So let's look at the actual technical analysis tools that are available to us on the Bitcoin Nexo token. we can see that the 50-day and 200-day moving averages have not crossed yet. Okay, so that is a bearish indicator potentially on the price against Bitcoin. Okay, we can see that there is a strong trend of 40 on the ADX, and it is a bullish trend, so that supports our hypothesis that it's going to break through this resistance level. MACD on a day chart is very strong and growing, and RSI is slightly oversold. In actual fact, we've got a little bit of divergence there because we haven't achieved a new all-time high for the RSI on this chart at the moment. Okay, so a little bit bearish on the RSI at present, but overall a solid picture which supports the idea that we should break through and start to target that 3,000 to 3,600 Satoshi region with any luck. Let's look now at the actual price targets for the Nexo token, and interestingly, this is a historical fib that I drew in order to determine the price target to take profits, and you'll notice that we have sold off, hit this fib nicely, the 0.618, and now we've rocketed perfectly up to the take profit region. Okay, so I would expect now to have a form of sell-off potentially coming back lower, and if I move this fib accordingly, we should see a sell-off down to 23 cents, 19 cents, and maybe even 13 cents. Personally, unless something dramatic happens, we probably won't see 13 cents anytime soon, but I would expect a sell-off of sorts from this multi-year resistance, unless of course the news is bullish enough and the Nexo token is bullish enough to break through. Now remember, around 60% of investors using Nexo are actually being paid in the Nexo token, so that really does support the fundamentals for breaking through this resistance level and the price continuing up to potentially around about $0.62, okay, with a potential target higher than that. Ultimately, I think the Nexo token has a lot more to go than that, and I'll demonstrate that a little bit later. But let's first look at the technical tools available to us. Now notice we've got a cross on the price action itself on the 200-day and 50-day EMAs, and we're currently supporting that nicely. We've got an extremely bullish price action, 56 on the ADX, and we have crossed over nicely and are quite wide on the ADX as well. RSI, once again, overbought, but still looking potentially lower than it was previously. We've got divergence there. Okay, so we're actually lower on the RSI than we were previously, even though the price has climbed more significantly and more dramatically recently. And on MACD, once again, nice and bold on the MACD front on a day chart. On a 4-hour chart, once again, we have reversed and crossed back over. And on a week chart, which is probably where this is probably the most likely to be accurate, we are crossed and very bullish on that. Not so bullish on the ADX, however. We're only about 23 or so relatively minor, but we have crossed over and we are bullish. So all technicals are supporting that this is a bullish breakout for the Nexo token. And if we actually look at the long-term chart, we'll see that ultimately we have actually broken above liquidity levels that are previous to it. The only one being this extremely large wick, which I would largely discount, apart from in my next slide where I'm going to be talking about a future bullish price that's years away. But we had a price obviously of $3, which is £2.20 that we saw in the first part of the video back in May 2018. So if we include this in the actual price forecast, where do we end up? Well, interestingly, we end up with a price target of almost $4 and a price target of exactly $5. Now, quite when this happens, I would say between now and 2025, we could hit a $3 to $5 Nexo token. But that obviously depends on adoption. And with DeFi being very, very strong this year and people moving away from centralized assets, that may be threatening the actual Nexo token. We'd also have to see the circulating supply reach the maximum supply likely in order for that to happen and the price to ascend to intra-dollar levels. Once again, it has been at $2 and $3 before, and £2.20 was the high, which is around about $3 or so. But again, we would have to see massive support for the Nexo token that far outstrips its current offering in terms of a service. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to the Nexo token. If you'd like me to analyze any other projects or would like me to take a look at a project in particular, please mention it in the comments. If you have any questions about the Nexo token or the Nexo product itself, please also leave those questions in the comments, and I will produce another video in time answering those questions. Otherwise, for now, happy trading. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to get $25 of CRO completely for free, please sign up to Crypto.com using our referral link in the description on this video. The Crypto Professor likes feedback. If you've enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like it. If you'd like more of the same, please don't forget to subscribe. Or if you have questions, please post them in the comments and I'll endeavour to answer them for you. Thanks for watching.